The views and opinions expressed by the host and the guests are solely their individual opinions and does not reflect the opinions of the Canashame Network. Viewers be advised.
Georgia is at a crossroads. Families are struggling, our communities are divided, and the choices we make right now will shape the future of this state. Tonight on Yo Rants Oversized Load, Civics Edition, we sit down with Ken Yasger, GOP gubernatorial candidate and Army veteran. This isn't just politics. This is about the people, service, and leadership. Stay locked in. And while the intro rolls, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming up next. I've walked in many shoes, from the pulpit to the prison halls, behind the wheel of a big rig, and now as a medical cannabis patient and an advocate for truth. Some of you know me as Yo, the herbal trucker, but today I'm stepping in as Yo, the concerned citizen. This is Yo Rants Oversized Load, Civics Edition. We're calling out power plays, exposing broken systems, and lifting voices that refuse to be silenced. Passion fuels purpose, purpose activates power, and power, that's how we shift the system. As Kendrick Lamar said, this revolution will be televised, and I'm adding to the channel lineup. This is a revolution in motion. This is Yo Rants Oversized Load, Civics Edition. Joining us tonight is Ken Yasger. He is a 2026 Georgia Republican gubernatorial candidate, U.S. Army and Georgia Army National Guard. From starting work at 15 to serving over 12 years in uniform, Ken has dedicated his life to service. Ken's vision for Georgia includes eliminating the state income tax, legalizing and regulating marijuana and gambling, capping education administrative salaries while raising teacher pay, suspending the gas tax to ease the burden on families, and pushing for prison reform, mental health resources, and veteran support. Openly critical of MAGA politics, Ken is fighting to return the Republican Party to its roots, fairness, service, and leadership that puts Georgians first. Tonight, we will hear this from Ken himself. In his own words, so sit back, and if you have any questions or comments, put them in the chat. Yo Rants Oversized Load starts now. Okay. Hey, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Let me turn this off. I'm glad that you were able to join us tonight. I'm glad that you're here on a Sunday at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
So, I guess we can go ahead and start this thing on off so we can go ahead and get this boat moving. Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, just the fact of who is Ken and.
Well, I was born in Ohio, moved all around because my dad was in the Air Force. So we moved all over the United States when I was a kid. My dad retired in Illinois. That's where I graduated high school, and I went to college near St. Louis, Missouri. I enlisted in the Army, and that's what brought me to Georgia in 2012. 2011, I was at Fort Benning in basic and airborne, but I was stationed at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah in June of 2012. Served 4 years in the 1st Ranger Battalion. And then in 2015, I transitioned to the Georgia Army National Guard, where I've currently been serving for going on 10 years in October, so next month. So 14 years in the military, still going. And 3 deployments to Afghanistan, and then a 4th deployment to the Middle East last year.
Okay, I got you. So with that being said, do you have family, kids, or anything here in Georgia? Anyone here in Georgia?
No,
Are you
just
married?
Me. No. My family lives. My parents live in Illinois still. My brother and one of my brothers lives near them, and the other brother lives in Arizona.
Okay. So now I had an opportunity to do a little research. I said, because when I first saw you doing the 13th Congressional Caucus, not the caucus. It was a forum.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. And I heard you speak. I said, you know what? I want to make sure that we get his voice out. We're going to do everyone else who else comes on. But now one thing that stuck out was about MAGA, and the fact just you were able to speak out against that. Not actually against, but you just made sure that you were able to, how can I put this? You were able to just say, I can agree with you on some things, but the other, I might not be able to agree. How are you able to work with that now?
The majority of Republicans that I know actually are not big MAGA people. It's just the loudest voices are the MAGA ones. The ones that I'm having to talk to on a regular basis are the MAGA ones. Because unfortunately, in our primaries, usually the ones that are more on the left and the more on the right are the ones that vote in the primaries. It's all the middle ground people like us that go out and vote in the general election. Even when I was talking with WSAV in Savannah, they even said, you sound like a general election candidate. That shouldn't be a difference. You shouldn't pander to one side and then go more to the middle for the general election. You shouldn't pander in the primaries. You should be yourself and talk to everybody through the entire election season.
Most definitely, because I look at it here, because I know how I had to register. I had to register as a Democrat because you don't have that choice. You either register as a Democrat, a Republican, independent. Well, actually, you can't really register as an independent. It's just like a two-party system here.
Yeah.
Now, being elected if you're elected as a governor, or would you push more towards having more of a ballot type state here, or are you okay with the primaries leading into the two-party system here?
So I'm okay with our primaries the way they're set up, because I like the fact that now there are some on the far right that are trying to change it, where I like that we have open primaries in Georgia. So like in Georgia, you just register to vote. You don't register with a party. So when you run for office, you pick a party and you run, or you run as an independent or libertarian. You have to have a bunch more like hoops to jump through. But if you register as or run as a Republican or Democrat, you just pay money and you're on the ballot. But in Georgia, what I like is if a Democrat doesn't like their politicians and they like what I have to say, they can go on primary day, request a Republican ballot, and vote for me in the Republican primary. Because I like that you don't register as a voter with a party. You just register to vote in Georgia. So I don't think the systems I think we are doing it pretty well. I do think we need to make it easier for independents and libertarians to get on the ballot. We don't have we shouldn't have as many hoops for them to jump through. But I like that you don't actually register with a party in Georgia, and we have the open primary system the way we do, because then you're voting more for the person than the party.
Now that is great in theory, but I think in a sense, it's kind of strategic in a way for a party. What makes it not so savory is the fact that, say, for instance, you have one party that would go grab a Democratic ticket, just for instance, and they'll control who is going to be the Democratic candidate, that goes on to the general. So if that being said, do you think it's fair for someone who is a registered Republican just to go grab a Democratic ballot to vote for a Democratic candidate so that they can go ahead and control the election somehow,
So the thing is, that's the thing. You don't register with a party when you register to vote in Georgia.
Yeah.
You're just registered. You're just registered to vote. And so I see what you're saying, because actually in 2008, that was the first campaign that I was involved in. I was 18 years old. I was actually living near St. Louis, Missouri, and Missouri was a swing state at the time. But I was an intern for the McCain campaign in 2008 for college and all that. Well, when Hillary and Obama were battling it out in the primaries, and McCain had already sealed up the Republican nomination in states that had open primaries, Republicans were being told to go vote in the Democratic primary for Hillary Clinton to keep her in the race, to keep the Democrats fighting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. So basically, the Republicans were still controlling who was going to be on the Democratic.
They weren't going to get enough. The Republicans weren't going to get enough voters out there to change who was going to be the nominee. They were just trying to keep the fight going on longer. They were just trying to make it harder for, at the time, Senator Obama to get the nomination. it was
Okay.
inevitable he was going to do it. They were just trying to drag it out as long as possible.
Okay.
But I like that. See, but in Georgia, I like that you have the choice, because some states have closed primaries where you can only vote for the Republicans or only vote for the Democrats if you register with a party. But in my opinion, I don't think the majority of the people would go try to sabotage an election. They would actually go and vote for who they want to vote for. And I like that they leave it open to both sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. Because I know that we've spoken with some candidates who have seen it firsthand, work a couple of campaigns here and there, and actually, saw some elected officials, and not only elected officials, whole, I guess, organizations to say, hey, Republicans, go grab a Democratic ballot. I saw that. And they basically, this is what they did, because they saw that a lot of the Democrats don't come out for the primaries. So that being said, I did see where you were deployed and you helped people to get their ballots to vote.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What inspired you to do that?
My military service. They serve. Everybody should vote. I mean, I'll admit, I was MAGA till 2020.
Okay.
In 2016, I was wearing Trump stickers all over. I had Trump bumper stickers on my car. I had the Trump flag and all that stuff. I still drove Hillary supporters to the polls on election day.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to tell you, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. One of my friends who I worked with, all election season, because I was so pro-Trump at the time, she was afraid to tell me who she supported. We had talked politics. The day after the election, she said, when I saw your video that you were offering to drive Hillary Clinton supporters to the polls, she said, I'll tell you this now. I didn't like Hillary. I just don't like Trump, but I voted for Hillary. And I was like, I've always, just because I say certain things doesn't mean I'm always open to everybody's mind. That's the problem. We have to start talking. And that's one thing that even Republicans are getting wrong right now, is they're talking about the Charlie Kirk assassination like he didn't want us united. Charlie Kirk literally talked to people intentionally who disagreed with him, because he flat out said, if you stop talking about things that you disagree with, that's where things break up. He mentioned your faith. If you don't talk about your faith, it breaks up. The church. If you don't talk about problems in a marriage, it ends in divorce. And he didn't want to see that happen in our country. So all these Republicans now are weaponizing his assassination and using it against Democrats, when his whole young life he used to talk to the other side and start a conversation. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to start a conversation with everybody, because we're all Americans first. We're not red or blue. We all are under the same red, white, and blue flag. And that's what I want to push to people.
That is truly great, because I as far as the Charlie Kirk killing, I get you on that, and I understand why a lot of them are weaponizing this murder. They're weaponizing it, and it made quite a few people, like here in Georgia, from what you just answered then. Do you think the people who automatically started accusing the HBCUs, the Black Lives Matter type people for this killing? I mean, because I'm looking at all of the bomb threats that happened the next day. So I'm just wondering, with that's out there. Like I say, I'm trying to make sure I stay respectful and on topic when it comes to this, because I know that there is a big difference between when people say this person is uniting versus while they're saying we don't need to talk about it, but you're talking about it while you're not talking about it. So if you're talking about it while not talking about it, then sometimes it can incite some people. But like I say, as far as people weaponizing what happened with that versus what happened in Denver that same day.
I literally talked to people about that too. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, because I'm like, I think it was like two people per, died that day, and it's like, it seems like the focus was more so on this political type
Well,
agenda
in the
versus.
in the Denver one, I don't think anybody died in the Denver one. The
Okay.
Minnesota one, people died.
Okay.
In Denver, I believe it was it was a school shooting, but nobody died. The Minnesota one, 2 kids died from a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. But
Okay.
I completely get what you're saying. But I think one of the reasons why the Charlie Kirk assassination was talked about so much more is because there were actually very few of my liberal friends did this. I only saw 2 or 3 posts about it. Everybody was saying it was a bad thing. It was awful. Violence should never happen. But 2 or 3 people were defending it and celebrating it. Nobody celebrates a school shooting. Nobody. We have a differing opinion on how to fix that problem, whether it's the gun, whether it's mental health, what we need to do about it, how we can talk about fixing it together. Nobody ever supports a school shooting, but people were supporting the killing of Charlie Kirk, which is why I think it was talked about more, if that makes sense to you. You know what I mean?
Okay. So you mean supporting like
Saying it was a
or
good thing. He deserved it. He didn't want stricter gun laws, so he deserved to be gunned down. I've seen those arguments. It's very, very awful. And I saw one person that said, well, thank God he's dead because now his children can be raised in a normal household. And then they said, or maybe his wife has to go next, so at least they could be raised in the foster system.
so
That's some pretty hateful things to say.
that truly is hateful. However, I'm not justifying what they said,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
what I want to know is, from looking at what he spoke about anti DEI, anti this, and it wasn't more so like civil rights, because like civil rights dealing with the DEIA. Now that's one of my main concerns. DEI dealing with the fact that currently I am disabled. And by me not being able to, well, or mobility challenged, put it this way, I'm mobility challenged. And I have to think about ramps and all this other stuff. But the civil rights movement basically dealt with the handicap, it dealt with women's rights,
mm-hmm.
and it dealt with veterans. A lot of people are going to be cut out because of DEI. Now, he spoke against DEI. So that's going to affect quite a few people. And I understand that everybody's trying to lift him up as this saint and stuff. We understand people have their views, but we just want to make sure we amplify the fact that we have to make sure we support everyone, as a person.
And I think we're going too far in a lot of that stuff too. But so he was also able to admit when he was wrong. One of the videos that I saw recently was he spoke out against something like American Sign Language for some reason. I don't know the exact details.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
He was talking about the closed captioning and blah, blah, blah. But this young deaf man literally proved him wrong. And he admitted, you opened my eyes to that. I admit I was wrong in that. So I think the problem is while DEI is a very broad topic, we're only talking about it in a very limited viewpoint. We're not talking about everything that's involved in DEI.
Yeah, that's true. And so that's one thing, that's one of our concerns too, is like with the DEI, sometimes people just have to, I guess, know the definition of it and know what it actually means and what
I
it's
think
included.
it's just a talking point.
Okay.
That's literally all it is. It's okay, so I'm going to get there. I have a 2-minute speech. Let's do this. I'm anti-DEI. I'm anti-immigration. I'm anti-abortion. I'm anti-gay rights. I'm anti-this. All right, 2 minutes is up. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people I know, including myself, LGBTQIA, whatever you want to call it, as a gay man, I don't completely understand the whole transgender ideology. And it's
okay.
It's kind of I have some transgender friends, but to me it's foreign to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about LGBTQ issues, there's a lot that goes on into that. Like you obviously know this. Same thing with DEI. It's not just, but when you're given a 2-minute stump speech and you're just trying to reach your core supporters, you may not be as anti-DEI as they may not be as anti-DEI as you think they are, because all they were able to say is something very quickly in a 2-minute speech.
I got you. That's just like the bullet points. I think that's just my issue too. Just trying to hit the bullet points. So yeah,
exactly. I got you. That's all they do. They have to hit the bullet points in this very quick speech, and it sounds like they're either one way or the other. But if you actually sat down and talked to them, they would, without a camera in their face, the majority of them would listen, and they would talk to you, and they would compromise, and they would agree with a lot of things you had to say.
Yeah, and it does, and that makes sense. Because that's one of the questions I wanted to ask. By you being part of the LGBTQ community, and a Republican, my question is, how is it that, how do you feel about them speaking about possibly overturning gay marriage?
So that's a funny question for me. So I am when it comes to, like, let's say if I became the next governor, I'm a big states' rights guy. And that means keeping President Trump's hands out of our state, and when possible, keeping the Supreme Court out of our state. And so do I believe the Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage should be overturned? No, I do not. But I'm also not a lawyer. I'm not a law student. I've talked to a lot of people with law degrees who actually say it should be left up to the states. And I see their argument. So in my states' rights mind, what I would like to see in Georgia is, just in case it is overturned, we should have a referendum, a constitutional referendum on gay marriage again in Georgia, like we had in 2004, where 72% of Georgians voted to make gay marriage illegal in the Georgia state constitution. A lot of people don't realize that it's actually illegal in our state constitution. So if the gay marriage ruling right now was overturned, all the marriages that have happened in Georgia would still count. They would still be married, but no new marriages could happen. So I want a referendum on the ballot, because the majority of Republicans I know would vote to still keep gay marriage legal, because they have gay grandkids or gay kids, gay grandkids. They have a gay friend or a lesbian friend, you know what I mean? And so I would like to see a referendum where Georgia would be one of the states that kept gay marriage legal, even if it was overturned. Now, I don't want it overturned. I don't think it should be overturned. But if it is, I'm not going to get all up in arms about something. I'd rather do something about it as an elected official and let the people vote on it.
Okay, we have some comments over here in the chat. It was dealing with the DEI. Let's see. All right. Thank you for joining us today, Commissioner Sanders. I was going to say, please talk about the benefits of DEI. So, who benefits from DEI? Hold on, wait a minute. I'm just going through the clicks. I'm sorry, I clicked too. I told you I'm my own producer, so I'm going through each one.
Oh, I got you. I can see this. I like that I can see this.
Okay, got you. So it says, actually, I probably can show the comments on the stage. Are you able to see it too?
I can see all of them. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool. I just put them up there.
Can I answer this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So just like I actually think a lot of Republicans have a lot of believe the same things that I believe when it comes to Medicaid, Medicare, and all that stuff. They're necessary programs. We're not trying to get rid of them. Now, I think the big, beautiful bill did a disgusting job in cutting way too many Medicaid and Medicare benefits from states, including in Georgia, and I think it's disgusting. Lisa Murkowski only voted for the big, beautiful bill because they got rid of the Medicaid, Medicare cuts that were going to happen to Alaska. So why didn't we stop them from happening in Georgia? You know what I mean? So we need them. That being said, there are a lot of people that I know who get these benefits, who do not work, who do not do what they're supposed to be doing. So I think we do need a board to make sure that the people who actually need it are getting it. And if you're just like any other welfare program, if you're on a welfare program, you need to be trying to do better. You have to prove to the state you're trying to do better. And that also includes, we're going to talk about it later, but I want regulatory legalization of marijuana. Mm-hmm. Just like you're in the military, you get drug tested. If you're on any kind of state or federally funded welfare, anything, you should be drug tested, because you should not be spending your money on drugs if you're getting any kind of welfare. So that's one of the checks and balances I would put in place. I don't understand why we don't drug test welfare recipients right now. I think that's crazy to me.
So shouldn't we also drug test the lawmakers?
You better freaking believe it. All these drunk, high pieces of crap who are against a bunch of this stuff, they're only against it for the cameras. They're doing it themselves. Are you kidding me? Just like a lot of these Republican lawmakers who are anti-gay marriage get caught in these gay scandals. All right, please. All right. Sorry, I'm just.
I get you. We see it all the time.
I'm very unpolitically correct. Yes, we should drug test them like crazy, because they're getting taxpayer money to pay their salaries and to line their pockets with corrupt corporate and lobbyist money. They better be drug tested randomly on a regular basis. You better believe it. It's federally legal. They should not be doing it. Oh man, that was an easy one for me. That was a softball.
Yeah, well, actually, speaking of that, the only thing that I might go ahead and just say, hey, you shouldn't be testing for would be for cannabinoids, because even with hemp, like we said, we'll talk about later, even with hemp can be metabolized into THC, and where it would go ahead and activate those metabolites that's in the body, and will cause people to test positive for cannabis. So, but yeah, that's great. So let me ask you a question back to the Medicaid. When it came to Medicaid, I remember when they talked about, they kept calling it Obamacare. However, it was the American Rescue Act. I think, is that what it was called? No, that was after that.
Yeah.
That was 2020.
It was the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. It's the A's. So with the Affordable Care Act, so with our current governor who refused to receive those funds so that they can go ahead and add it to the marketplace, would you finally accept those funds?
If the funds are there, yeah, accept them. Like, I actually look back to on this thing. I look back to Ron Paul, very libertarian Republican who ran in the 2008 and 2012 presidential elections. He was from Texas. He was talking about in the 2012 Republican debate for president. He was talking of they were questioning his use of funds for his district that he voted against in Congress, and they were saying it was hypocritical of him to criticize the other Republicans who voted for the funds but still use the funds. And he said, no, I voted against them because I don't think they should have happened. But if the federal government's going to give me money, I'm going to take it and use it the way it needs to be used.
Yeah, because you think about it.
I think that answer. So that was just going against the not accepting the money from the Affordable Care Act. That was just a political move. It was a political maneuver because the Democrats said something, so the Republicans have to say it's bad. Then the Democrats do it too. Republicans pass something that could help out, they're going to say it's bad because Republicans said it. So, but yeah, I think it was just a political move, and it was the wrong move.
Yeah, I get you with that one right here. We have another question from the audience. Let's see. It said, what will you put in place to help people get off of these federal programs here?
We already have. We're in Georgia. We already. So one thing the big beautiful bill, whatever, did was it set up. That's the word I was looking for. Committees to actually go out and make sure these checks and balances were happening and make sure all the requirements were being met. Some states aren't doing that. Georgia already has that. We're already doing that in our state. So that's actually already happening. I just think one of the big things we should start doing is drug testing, because like I said, you shouldn't be buying drugs if you're on a welfare program. But we already have a committee that does do those checks.
Yeah, I got you. But like, speaking of that right there, I'm gonna go ahead and move a little bit further. Let's see. Here go another question. Yeah. So how will you handle those people in programs with infants and children of school age? Because this year they voted down. They didn't even pass with the free lunches where the kids would be provided free lunch. So if daycare isn't affordable, how can you help them so that they can work or volunteer? Because they're going to require you to do 30 hours a month or something.
Oh, who are trying to who can't work?
Yes.
I mean, you would take that into consideration. Obviously, that's somebody who's trying. That's somebody who is doing. That wouldn't be something that you would. A child who can't go to school and the parent has to stay home and take care of that child. That is a job. You're on the program. You shouldn't be taken off the program for that. You're doing a job you need to do. Take care of that child. Once the child is of age to go to school, work during the day. The whole point is showing that you're progressing. You're not taking advantage of the system as it is. And so a mom who's just taking care of her. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for 3 boys when my dad worked 2 jobs. He was in the Air Force full time and he delivered pizzas at night so she could stay at home. That is a full-time job, taking care of kids. So yes, if you're a single parent with infants, you're not going to be taken off the program unless you are out doing drugs and stuff like that. Like that's not you're not violating anything by not having a quote unquote real job. No, because that child is your job.
Yeah. Now I get you with that, and I know that you've been emphasizing about drug abuse and drug addicts and drug addiction. And we know that Georgia is one of the leading states with the opioid crisis, with dealing with the meth epidemic. With that being said, will you focus more so on trying to shut down the meth clinics and encourage lawmakers to appropriate funds for harsh drugs versus cannabis?
Say that again. Question again?
Basically, with all the meth labs, what would you do to make sure that you allocate funds? Since I know you've been speaking quite a bit about drug addictions, would that be one of your priorities to have funding appropriated to make sure that you shut down the meth mills and other illicit avenues of drugs?
Absolutely. Especially if marijuana became legal in the state, you would have more tax money to go after the illegal drug farms. And the only way you get addicted to marijuana is if it's laced with something else, and that's how it's a gateway drug. Is you want something harder. Because it is illegal, and so a lot of these people. I mean, most addiction it's mental. It's not. I try not to demonize the addict. I want to demonize the drug, because these drugs are disgusting. They're hard. They're dangerous. And alcohol, same thing. It's dangerous, but it's widely accepted. So you got to focus on shutting down the illegal projects, illegal farms, all this illegal activity going on. And then we have to focus on, I'm going to a recovery luncheon tomorrow in Atlanta. And I just think that's called the Georgia Recovery Bus Tour. And I think that's really cool. And so I'm going to be going to that lunch tomorrow. We have to focus on recovery, not demonizing the addict. We have to get rid of what they're on and focus on recovery instead of penalizing.
Yeah, because I know that cannabis can be a harm reducer when it comes to weaning yourself off of cannabis. I mean, weaning yourself off of those particular drugs, because there is a couple of clinics here in Georgia that actually use some of the scientific studies that speaks about cannabis being a harm reducer to get people weaned off of opioids.
Yeah, one of my buddies quit alcohol and quit using pills cold turkey after he started smoking weed up in the Northeast.
Yeah. And see, that's one reason why I know we keep saying legalize cannabis, but when you legalize cannabis, that also brings on taxation. One thing quite a few of us would even prefer, and I'm one of them, would be to decriminalize it, because it's a freaking plant. Cannabis is a plant. That's just like grass growing out in your yard. It's a plant. So that being said, I'm just trying to figure out. Now we're going to move on to your pillars. Now, when we're moving on to the next one, where it talks about where you're saying that I know we're talking about funding here in Georgia, and you're talking about the income tax, and you're talking about relieving income tax with federal funding not coming into Georgia because they already said they're cutting the budget. How will you be able to make that happen? How will you be able to keep that campaign promise about eliminating Georgia's income tax?
Well, we're already in a tax surplus, and so that's why we were able to get back a $250 or $500 check at the end of the year, like this little diamond change kind of thing, because we had a big tax surplus already, and we have it every year. Then if you eliminate the state income tax, you can, and then we legalize marijuana and gambling. That's more tax revenue coming in, more personal freedoms and liberties for our people, and they're spending tax money, or we're bringing in tax money on what they're buying. I think you should be taxed on what you buy, not what you make. I think the income tax is unconstitutional, and then also on things that are kind of harmful. I was talking to somebody recently. We can raise the sales tax on certain things, cigarettes, alcohol. People are still going to buy it, and that's more tax revenue coming in. And then we're also still going to have the corporate tax rate. We're not getting rid of the corporate tax rate. The corporate tax rate is still around 5%. It's still low. I just want to get rid of the personal income tax. So we're going to still have the corporate income tax. We're going to give more people more personal freedoms and liberties and be able to tax that. And then we can raise certain sales taxes for people, for certain items that could possibly discourage some people from using it, or you can make more money off of it.
And so that's basically just that sin tax right there. So, you want to use this, and that's part of the sin tax. So if that, my concern would be, will it turn into like Florida? So will you, I've seen some people make the statement, well, yeah, we're just going to have toll roads all over. Do you support turning into the house? Okay.
No, that's ridiculous. No.
Okay.
I don't want Georgia to become Florida. Just like I don't want us to become New York or California. I don't want us to become a different red state either. I want Georgia to stay Georgia. So.
Okay, because that was one of my concerns, as far as this becoming just a whole bunch of toll roads, because I already see those lanes they already have in Gwinnett County, throughout downtown Atlanta, whatever, where you actually have to, well, not downtown Atlanta, but Gwinnett County, and you have to pay those toll roads to get through.
No, I've driven through Rhode Island, New York. That's a pain in the ass. I don't want to do that. So no.
Oh yeah, I've been on there. The New Jersey, it was at the New Jersey Turnpike.
New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that first time I rode on the New Jersey Turnpike, oh my God, I rode through DC and didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be on 395, and I had hazmat on my trailers. So I'm just grateful that I didn't get pulled over. But
yeah.
So, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about, since we're talking about so we live in Savannah, right?
Yes.
So you're not close. You're kind of close to that Hyundai factory. That
yes,
I'm gonna ask you about this one.
My friend who owns she owns her own marketing company. She lives in Bullitt County.
Okay, so that's Milledgeville, right?
Or Bryan County.
Okay. Bryan County. That's close to Hines. Is that Hinesville or?
It's she lives in Elbel.
Okay. So yeah, with that, with those people, that's another one of my concerns. How do you feel about the one candidate? Well, I'm not going to ask you about the one candidate, because that's not appropriate. How do you feel about those undocumented, or those workers that were here that ended up getting detained because of a call? Someone reported a call.
So at first, I didn't like it, but it turns out that raid, it was because the Honda plant had so much publicity. They said that was a months-long investigation, and that's why they knew so many were working there. But my problem is, if it's illegal to be in here working undocumented, and we're arresting all these people for being undocumented, why don't you, on site, on camera, arrest the person in charge that same day? Because they hired him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when with all due respect to Governor Kemp, when he says that, oh, Governor Kemp, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, Attorney General Chris Carr, when they're out there campaigning saying that we're the best state to do business in, yeah, it's because we're giving all these tax breaks to all these corporations and screwing over our own citizens. I want people to do business in Georgia, but not at the expense of our own citizens, and that's what's happening right now with the Honda plant. For example, they ruined the water supply out there for the farmers and local citizens. There was a lawsuit that could have had fines up to $7 million, and the Current reported on this. In the best interest of the people, they settled with Honda for $30,000. $30,000 instead of $7 million in fines. You want to talk about tax revenue, where we get it from? Right there. That's where we get it.
That kind of reminds me of what's going on with the water supply with all these data companies that's popping up everywhere. Yeah. I know that, like, one of my sheroes, she came to town. I hate that I missed it. Erin Brockovich. She came to speak. I think it was Rome or Cartersville. They were concerned about the data center that was built there in the groundwater, and you have all over with these different data centers that's popping up. Now, with these data centers popping up, would you put a limit on so many allowed, or would you have to designate a spot for only data centers so it doesn't affect the groundwater and the water pressure?
You're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be doing that research before you pick the ground, and they're not doing that. They're supposed to be doing that risk assessment. Every project has in the military, every military project has a risk assessment done first. That's what we're supposed to be doing in the state, but we're not. So they're not. They're just trying to get all these businesses up and running, and they're not actually taking the time to make sure it's done properly. And that's the issue.
Yeah, I get you with that, because I know that one of our concerns too is the benefit of hemp itself. This is just for some of the listeners out there. Hemp can clean the soil. Hemp can clean the water, and hemp can do amazing things. And so basically hemp needs to be planted everywhere. So if it's decriminalized, then we don't have to worry about people thinking that it's cannabis. They're cut. Well, we'll talk about that later. But anyway,
the decriminalizing should happen already, but legalizing is just a step further.
Yeah, we're just concerned about the taxation, because I know some of the companies, when some companies, you think they will make money. But I had someone on the show the other day said that this one company made $320 something million. But guess how much taxes they had to pay? 600 and something million. So that in itself is not beneficial for those particular companies.
See, that's something we would work out, but as we were legalizing it, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the state just screwing you over. Like, that's not. Yeah. Where do they live?
It was just it was federally. This was their federal. That's how much they made federally. I think it was I think they made $360 million, and they paid $620 million in taxes.
Because that doesn't make sense. So, no.
Exactly. I think they said it's like 60%. This is just what was. Yeah, it's cannabis.
That's something that you would look at. Now, legalizing it in Georgia would not do that.
Okay, yeah, because I'm concerned about that too, as far as legalizing.
Even if you were paying a 50% tax rate, let's say you made $350 million, you would still get $175 million, and we wouldn't be having people in jail for smoking marijuana.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's because if you own a marijuana company, you're still going to pay a corporate tax rate too, but a corporate tax rate isn't 50%; it's 5%.
Okay, I got you. Well, yeah, I think it was different for the cannabis companies, and I think they were doing 60%. I think that's what the cap was for.
And I think also, if all of that is factual and they actually did happen, I'm not saying it didn't, but it just sounds very far fetched that you paid double taxes in what you made. That doesn't make sense. But federally, cannabis is not legal; it's still illegal. So federally, they can do whatever they want. And one of my arguments for people is it's very hard to start a cannabis business right now in a state that's legalized because of the fact that it's federally illegal. Well, only these deep blue states are legalizing marijuana. So if a red state like Georgia legalized it, it would put more pressure on the federal lawmakers, Republican and Democrats, to at least decriminalize it or deschedule it at the federal level. because then it just shows that it's not just liberal blue states that are doing it. It's every state that wants it.
And yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, like you had spoke about earlier, that a lot of people are in the closet about utilizing different type of herbal supplements. I'm just gonna say cannabis because the illicit drugs, I don't, deal with.
I know. I serve people every single day at a restaurant. I have met countless older folks who smoke weed at home because it helps with their pain.
Mm-hmm.
It helps with their cancer treatments. It helps with all this other stuff. So they actually do it. There are a lot of closet marijuana smokers out there. Like, it's not.
Yeah, I remember because I know, with our nonprofit, what we do, I know that how I handle the calls when people call in. I've had some calls to call in and say, hey, look, what is this? What's this company? They found out what it was. And it's like, I ain't interested, but I end up talking to them on the phone for an hour because they're interested in what about cannabis? And they want to know about the program because really and truly, Georgia does not have a medical cannabis program. They don't. They have low dose THC. That's a difference. That's a compound. That's a part of the plant. But hold on. I know I'm going to get to that cannabis. Let's see. I'm checking my time. I'm looking at the time. And okay, hold on. I'm going back to the comments. And I know we spoke about the Hyundai plant. And since we were speaking about the Hyundai plant, about the jobs that's being lost about the Hyundai plant, I know the paper mill closed in Savannah.
Yeah.
How many people are affected by that? What would you do with that plant if elected? What would you recommend a business, whatever, to go there?
See, that honestly, that's something I haven't looked into, and I need to do that. So that's because Governor Kemp, he did announce that he has a plan, and other businesses are hiring people on who got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more of a local issue as well, not a state issue.
Okay.
But the state can do a lot to help, I think. But I'd have to do more research and look into that. I'm also going to preface by saying I'm not some crazy politician who's going to pretend I know the answer to every freaking thing that is out there, because I don't. That's the if you know everything, then good on you, but I don't. So I'm just going to be honest with you on that one.
Yeah, I get you totally. Because like I say, that's about like me in this podcast. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm here asking these questions and stuff, but I do much better typing. It's like if I could text back and forth, I could go with you back and forth, but actually having to communicate in this manner is one thing. So, and I know you spoke about the groundwater, not the groundwater. Yeah, you did speak about the groundwater in the Hyundai plant, right? The Hyundai plant, the people were complaining about the water. Do you think, well, you know what? We're not even going to even go into that because I'm like, okay, we'll talk about that one later. But I'm going to go to this question over here in the chat. Is dealing with the HOAs here in Georgia. The HOAs have been taking over some people's properties. There's one guy in Kennesaw. His house is in foreclosure now over, I think it's like an $8,000 fine. What would you do if elected to stop some of these HOAs from having so much power over people?
See, again, that just sounds off. That's a local issue. That's something you'd have to talk to your local elected officials about. Just like property taxes in Georgia. And the state of Georgia does not have a state property tax. All property taxes are local, county and citywide. So HOAs, that would be at a more localized level. That's not something the state could really do anything about because it's literally at the local level.
Now, speaking of that, now I know
you have a lot of pressure and a lot of influence, but based on like law, in a sense of passing laws, there's not a lot that the state could do to stop these HOAs. That's a local issue.
Now, I've seen some legislators to propose some legislation this past session and the session before to try and put a stop on the HOAs. So that's one thing that I'm hoping that, if elected, you can go ahead and continue to talk to those legislators, because I know like the local legislators, the senators and the House reps will be the ones that's like over like the counties and stuff like that. With that, just like this past session with the tort reform bill. Governor Kemp really pushed for the tort reform bill.
Mm-hmm.
So Would it be?
And one issue with the legislatures, not just local, I mean the state legislatures, is they say they're doing a lot, but they end up not doing it. It's all just a smoke. It's all a smoke screen. For example, the speed zone cameras that are unconstitutional, the school speed zone cameras. I don't want you speeding in a school zone, but let's put a law enforcement official in those school zones to pull people over, or put them in the middle of the median with their lights flashing. People are going to slow down. Those school zone cameras are absolutely unconstitutional. Our lieutenant governor, that was his little pet project. A company in South Carolina gets most of that money from those tickets. But they were supposed to vote to get rid of those speed zone cameras. There was a bill in the House, a bill in the Senate. They couldn't agree on some things, and the legislature literally, quote, ran out of time, and they ended the session. So nothing got done. It's literally smoke and mirrors. It's literally, but what the governor can do is the governor cannot extend the legislative session past 40 days, but what he can do is continue to call an emergency session, which means the legislators have to stay at the Capitol until the business is done, which our governor is not doing. You can literally use an emergency session as many as you want until they pass what you need them to pass. And so, you know what? Let me get up there, talk to them about those HOA bills that they're trying to pass. And if they can actually pass it, let's make it happen. And like I said, it's not the governor's job to write legislation. That's their job. It's my job to sign into law what's best for the people.
Yeah, I got you, because I know we've experienced that over the past few years with this legislation, because it's just like when you watch Sign It I, when you watch the last final hours, this was a very strange year, because this year it's like, I'm like, is it over? Yeah, is it over? But speaking of that, and I wanted to bring this up, since I know that we spoke about earlier about the fact that you have spoken openly about the things you disagree with MAGA. Now, being the governor, if you're elected the governor, and if you happen to go against the MAGA ideology and represent like the principles of being a Republican, I'm showing you up on screen right now about what happened to Representative Vance Smith, who actually voted against tort reform. Mm-hmm. He lost his position as the chairman of the board for what was it? I'm sorry, I just had a brain fart. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce. He lost his job for that because he went against what the governor said. So basically, do you feel like that is? I mean, would you even think about? I mean, of course, you'll probably say, "No, I wouldn't." But
I would
how
never.
Do you feel about that?
I would never. If somebody most of my friends are liberal Democrats. They don't even like the word Democrat. Most of them are left leaning or liberal. Okay. I like when people disagree with me. I like having conversations. I like having debates. Okay. I would never attack somebody or use my position to hurt them for disagreeing with me. I may not always listen. I might not always listen to everything they say or like everything they say, but this whole revenge thing, this petty stuff that these lawmakers are doing, including the president, is disgusting. And that's why I like Thomas Massie from Kentucky. He's in the U.S. House. I don't know if you've heard of his name. Thomas Massie is a Republican, but he's fairly libertarian. He voted against the big, beautiful bill like Senator Tom Tillis did in North Carolina. President Trump said he was going to primary Tom Tillis for voting against the big, beautiful bill. Tom Tillis said he's not going to run for re-election. He told Thomas Massie, I think he was going to spend some organization was going to spend like $500,000 on a primary opponent against Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie said, "Come and get it." That's awesome. But it shouldn't be, a lawmaker shouldn't have to say, "Come and get it," to the person that's higher in power to them because they voted against something that this person wanted. That's disgusting. It's wrong. I would never do that.
Yeah, that's like authoritarian. And it's just like you look at the whole big picture. I mean, that's the sign of a dictator, in my opinion. It's like it's either my way or the highway. But I know we're going to move on over here to the last segment, which is dealing with the cannabis stigma and recovery. So you supported legalizing marijuana. Why do you believe it should be regulated and legal in Georgia?
Because alcohol is marijuana safe. People are using it anyways. We can tax it. We can make money off of it. We can stop putting people in jail for it. We need to. It's safer than most of these other drugs out here. It's actually safer than really all the drugs out here. It can wean them off of pills they're addicted to or alcohol addiction. There's way more benefits to legalizing marijuana than the cons to it.
So that being said, with those people who are currently incarcerated for the plant,
it would. I've already thought about this. It would be a case by case basis. I wouldn't do some broad pardon. Well, in Georgia we have a pardon board, so the board would have to pardon them. But like President Trump pardoned all 1,500 January 6th rioters. That's disgusting. It should have been a case by case basis. The violent ones should still be in jail or prison. The ones that shouldn't have served prison time should be, the charges dropped. Same thing with marijuana. I mean, if you were trafficking into the state, you're not just using marijuana, you're going to traffic some other drug too. You know what I mean? So that's where we would take common sense into it and be like, all right, was this person put in jail for smoking marijuana, or was this person put in jail for literally trafficking large amounts of drugs? Because if we possibly let that person out and marijuana is legal, they're just going to find something else to traffic because that's how they're making their money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you, because I know. Well, I'm gonna tell you, when they actually legalize, when they passed HB1 and HB 324, when they passed this legislation for Haley's Hope, and for that particular legislation, that allowed us to have 20 fluid ounces of low dose THC oil. However, when Nathan Deal passed it and signed it into law, he was like, okay, you can have it. But the question was, how are you supposed to get it?
Yeah.
And they had a lot of people in that gray area working up on the ground. Some of those people are incarcerated right now because of that.
See, exactly. That would be a case by case basis. You would look at that. Oh, this is what they were doing. They're not a threat to society. You would have to. That's what I mean by, are they going to traffic other drugs, or are they doing it for this specific purpose? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's also not the governor's. The governor can't do that. That again, that's the pardoning board. The governor has influence over the pardoning board and what they do, but he doesn't have that direct power in Georgia. That's something we took away from the executive branch, which I think is a great idea.
Okay, yeah, because I'm still caught up in the fact, like, you waiting on the pardon from the governor. I guess I'm thinking, is that just for the death penalty? I guess I probably need to do a little bit more research with that myself too.
Yeah, so we have a 3-panel parole and pardon board in Georgia. So our governor does not have that power like some other states do. And even in Georgia, the death penalty, let's say, so the governor can't stop a death penalty. He can put a stay on it for 30 days.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. So in Georgia, you put a stay on it. You don't stop it. You stop it from that moment happening. But then they just reevaluate the charges.
Okay. I also, hold on one second. I was just looking at my notes. I'm just trying to make sure I cover everything because I was looking at the time, and I know. Yeah. Okay. So with that being said about the cannabis program, now I've been an advocate for medical cannabis. Now I'm a former correctional officer, former truck driver. Used cannabis for the first time in 2017. So I was one of those just say no, thinking cannabis was a gateway drug. So now I'm here and I'm needing this plant. I'm just trying to figure out, how are you going to be able to convince those Republicans? I mean, I know you say you you know, if you're elected governor, how will you be able to convince those senators and, influence some of those senators and state reps who, I hear something somewhere. I don't know where that's coming from. Something's going on with my system. I don't know if you hear it or not.
I do.
I'm just trying to, you do hear it. I don't know where it's coming from.
It just sounds like some background music.
I am trying to.
It went away.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where did it. Yeah, I'm just hoping nothing else pops up. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Ooh, it scared me. So my question is,
I've been asked this question. So if I get elected with very little money, because I'm trying to get money out of politics, and with no political experience, if I somehow get big enough of a grassroots movement going and I get elected governor,
okay,
I will have a mandate like no other. And the power the governor does have is veto power. I would look at these legislatures and I would say, you're going to work with the Democrats on a bill to legalize marijuana while regulating it, or I will veto every single thing you send to my desk until you do pass what I want you to pass. Then, because there aren't enough Republicans in the Georgia legislature to override a governor's veto without some Democrats getting on board. So if I veto every bill they send to my desk, but then the Republicans get enough Democrats on board to override my veto, it's a win-win, because then I just encourage bipartisanship and Republicans worked with Democrats on something. So I want to encourage bipartisanship too. But no, I would look at them and I would say, you're going to pass this or I'm going to veto every single thing you send to my desk. I'll be a lame duck governor until this happens. And if you try to make me a one-term governor because of it, I may be a one-term governor, but I will spend every single day of those 4 years going door to door in the state of Georgia talking about how your Republican legislatures are failing you. The governor will show up at your door and tell you, this is what's going on in Atlanta, and I'm trying to change it.
Yeah. Hold on one second. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I was just trying to multitask and read the comments too. Okay, cool. Because like I say, hopefully I have a producer for the next show. But yeah, and I'm looking at the fact, like when you said that about the cannabis, I issued this past session, we had a medical cannabis bill to expand medical cannabis so we can get it named medical cannabis, blocked from coming to a vote on the floor. I just wanted to make you aware of that this is what you're looking to face when you go into office, because what I've seen up under the gold dome this past session was horrible.
Absolutely.
And if they didn't listen to the patients, they didn't listen to the people, but they allowed their personal feelings to take over. And
they allowed the big pharma money in their pockets to vote for them? Okay.
That's another thing too. That's because I'm gonna be honest, I want home grow. The reason why I want home grow is because I want to be able to decide. I'm not gonna grow it myself, but it's just like I would prefer to have an option versus continue to go to the dispensary, because the dispensaries a lot of times, like right now, the products are not, they change. They're not consistent.
Yeah. No, so it would be the same as like there would be provisions in the bill where you can grow up to a certain amount at your home.
Okay. Now, would you go ahead?
Just like alcohol, people make their own beer and their own wine at home, but mass distributed. That would be the same thing with marijuana. Is you could grow at your house. You just can't have like your own unregulated dispensary at your house. You know what I mean? But if you want to use it for your own personal use, that's absolutely fine.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Because like I say, I was looking at that because I even know, like, even with the medical cannabis bill right now, they have a mandatory minimum in there. So you have some patients that look at that and say, hey, do I want to get my medical cannabis card and be subjected to this mandatory minimum? Now, would that be included in your legislation?
What do you mean by mandatory minimum?
Mandatory minimum. If you are caught with more than 20 fluid ounces of low dose THC oil, then you'll get, I think it's like 5 years or something like that. It's like mandatory minimums. It's actually written into the law. And with that, and so basically
mandatory minimum sentencing.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No,
yeah, mandatory.
I want to leave that up to the courts. I'm a big fan of the judicial system. I trust the judicial system more than I do the legislative branch. So I would leave that up to the court system.
Yeah, I know you said leave it up to the court system, but the problem is that it's actually written into the law. Some legislators.
No, that's what I'm saying. I would not put it in the law, because I would rather leave the penalties up to the courts, not tell the courts they have to do this. Does that make sense?
I got you. Yeah. So hopefully we can get that particular bill amended. And I didn't get a chance to find out as far as like gambling.
If I become governor, it will.
I hope so. So we didn't get a chance to touch on the point about gambling, because I know they've been trying to pass gambling for the longest. How do you think you're going to be able to gain support about gambling?
Same thing. Pass it or I'll veto everything you send to my desk. Make it happen. I will use the governor may not have like ultimate power. I'm not a dictator, but I have certain authority, and I would take advantage of it.
Yeah, I got you with that. And also you mentioned about fundraising. That's one thing that really and truly impressed me about you. When I did some research, I said, wait a minute, he's running. I said, he ran all the way from Savannah to the state capitol. How was that? I mean, just tell me about what inspired you to do that.
Instead of going door to door, I'd rather walk city to city and talk to people. I don't have millions of dollars to get a bus and do a bus tour across the state with my face on it. But most of these politicians can't put a rucksack on and walk across the state. So that's what I decided to do. And I've done it twice, and I'm doing it a third time in October.
Okay. Now tell me about the time when you lived as a homeless person.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically I wasn't living as a homeless person, just on the walk. I would sleep outside of churches, sleep on the side of the road. I was camping out the entire time. Instead of like sleeping in fire stations and all that stuff. So I would have to find a spot to sleep while on the walk. I just wanted to put myself in the shoes of someone who's homeless. You know what I mean?
Okay. Gotcha. And so that's one thing that we were really concerned with, because they passed some legislation a couple of years ago that made it to where they were able to move the homeless from different cities. So this was, I think it was, yeah, I think they started down there in Brunswick. I think it was someone who presented it from Brunswick. I think it was for the city of Brunswick or something that happened. I'm just remembering some legislation from a couple of years ago. But yeah, I know we've reached the hour mark, and I was trying my best to stay on task, and I think
you're good. I do have a friend. I have a friend who knows a homeless guy who got bused from Chatham County to Effingham County. So that is actually happening.
And so speaking of busing and transferring over, I know that Georgia's supposed to have the largest internment concentration camp that's supposed to be here. Would you go ahead and entertain that and allow the undocumented to be placed in these different concentration camps or internment camps or different detention centers? Detention centers.
Go to Florida.
Okay, I got you.
So I would not. And my current representative, Congressman Buddy Carter, who's running, yes, I will call him out. Congressman Buddy Carter, who's running for the U.S. Senate, actually very, very deeply supports a detention center in Georgia's 1st Congressional District.
And if they want to go ahead and take that funding, they might want to go ahead and invest that into Georgia's crumbling prison system, which we're going to talk about that. Former correction officer, worked in a housing unit that was in a dead area, dead radio zone, which was very dangerous. Now it's even more dangerous with the cell phones and stuff like that are coming in, people being murdered. How would you work with the nonprofits or the organizations that are currently covering some of the murders and stuff that's going on in the prisons? Because I think they have the Georgia Human Rights Campaign.
Yeah, because I don't know a lot about it, and that's the problem. And so what I would actually do is I would listen to what they have to say, which these politicians don't do. They read an article or listen to some lobbyist and they think they know the answer. That's not the answer. Go to the prison, go to the jail. The governor can do whatever the hell he wants. Why don't you step foot in there and see what it's like, and go talk to the people who are actually working in those prisons? Go talk. I was at a Raven County Republican Party Low Country Bowl last night.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the, I talked about my struggle with alcohol addiction and how I'm sober and mental health issues and all that stuff. Well, one of the board members of the Raven County Republican Party, I think he said he's 15 years sober now. He goes to their local jail and on a regular basis and talks about addiction. And when they get out, this is how they can better their lives. Those are the people we should be talking to, not these lobbyists and not these, not the people who run the jails. I want to talk to the people who are going in there and volunteering and seeing the problems. I don't want to talk to your boss. I want to talk to the actual corrections officer on the ground.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's what you probably need to do that, because we always have a different story than that. But going back to the comment, I know we're gonna get ready to close and let you do either your rant of the day or where you're gonna do your herbal truck or awakening moment kind of thing. You just let me know which one you want to do. It doesn't even matter. You just go ahead and talk. I'm gonna pull you full screen. But we're gonna go back to that. Going back to the HOA, because I know we have a person in the comment who said Senator Donzella James, she did have an HOA bill. But now this is one of the problems that we've heard about. Some people who are in these elected positions, it seems like they let's see. Do you think real estate agents and closing attorneys should be elected seats when they can use the power to make money? So basically, you got
should they be allowed to run for office, kind of thing?
Or should they be allowed to practice in their area because of their influence? Or do you think that it would be okay for a legislator who works in real estate
to still do real estate while elected?
Yeah, I mean, I understand you can do it outside of whatever district or whatever you're working in. I understand that, but it's like people.
If you're an elected official, that's your job.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm just wondering. I think did I answer? I don't know if I answered the question. Got the question answered. Because I think from this question right here, it stems from some elected officials. And you have a whole lot of these big corporations that's coming in the state of Georgia and buying up properties. Because I know, like with the house that we have, the property value is up. And the reason why it's up because you have so many corporate buyers that come in and buy up all these houses. So my question is, what would you do to try and put a cap on that? Or, I mean, as I know, as a governor, whatever, it's basically we're just talking about how would you try to voice your concerns to the legislators that may go ahead and present the bill to try and stop some of these people utilizing their position and influence to make money off of their seat.
If they're in elected office.
If they're, say for instance, I'm a real estate agent or a broker, and I sit in this county seat, and then different proposals and stuff may come up, and then they're getting not saying they're getting kickback, but just to say that they are basically more lenient towards the one who's just trying, the developers, because you have a lot of developers that are coming in.
I get that. Okay. And that's one of the biggest problems with our elected system is the voters have to stop that.
Okay.
Because it's you can't directly stop somebody from doing that because you can't prove they're voting a certain way to benefit themselves. That's why in on the federal level they're trying to ban stock trading if you're in elected office.
And they should.
Exactly. That's what they're trying to do. So if they can't even ban stock trading currently for current elected officials, that's one of the problems. So you have to. That's something you have to expose to the voters, and the voters vote them out. But the problem is getting the people out there to vote on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
in closing out, I'm just trying to make sure I covered these questions because I know my eyes are playing tricks on me. Do we have time, a little bit more time, to see whether or not, how do you feel about the constitutional carry here in Georgia, and how will you be able to, would you be putting up recommendations and measures to stop people who don't need the guns from accessing them so easy?
So I mean, we already have gun laws in Georgia that work. I mean, my military ID is my carry license, but even if I go buy a gun and show my military ID, I still get put on a hold. We do our own background checks in Georgia. We just have to make sure we have to make sure our current laws are being enforced. That's the issue. I am a big Second Amendment guy. I'm not a big gun guy myself, but I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I don't have to put a gun on my sign like some of these other Republicans do to show that I support gun rights. I think it's just cringy. But the guns are already there. The criminals are going to get them. We're a Second Amendment country. We're not the United Kingdom where they've never had guns. We've had guns. We have guns. If we limit what kind of guns and how many guns legal gun owners can have, it's just going to put more people in danger because the criminals are going to get them anyways.
I do agree with that to a certain degree, but I'm just concerned about those with different mental health conditions and stuff like that. But I guess
that's an issue. The problem with saying a mental health issue is I've deployed 4 times. I think anyone who's deployed has a slight case of PTSD. Not major, but at least a slight case. It is proven that red flag laws would unfairly target veterans with PTSD up to 80, 85, 90%. That would just discourage veterans who need to report their PTSD from doing so because they're afraid that they're going to have their Second Amendment rights taken away. I don't want to take away your Second Amendment rights because you have a little bit of mental health issues, but you're going to get help for it or you want to get help for it. You know what I mean? So red flag laws are one of those things. PTSD is considered a mental health condition. And but there are different degrees of PTSD, just like depression, bipolar disorder. I don't think everybody who has depression or bipolar disorder should not be able to buy a gun. You know what I'm saying? Because there's different. Yeah. So that's my only issue with saying the mental health problem. But we just have to focus on helping people with mental health in our country, which I actually do think would bring down the gun violence. All these politicians all these politicians say they support mental health measures, but they don't actually do anything about it.
Yeah, I get you with that because, I do have a different perspective now that you said it and put it in that and framed it in that way. I was like, okay, because I'm just thinking, saying just mental health, that's just a broad term. So that's just putting everything in such a large category. So I get that. So no, we don't want to stop the veterans from having the guns. However, that's the big sticky here in Georgia where people aren't signing up for the medical cannabis program the low dose THC program because they're concerned about that question that's on your gun license or whatever, where it says, have you consumed any illegal product, which is a too, because you can use it in Georgia. However, it's not legal federally. Medical cannabis ain't legal nowhere.
Yeah. That's where, first off, the federal government needs to change that. But second, we need to protect our people from the federal government and make sure that they're not going to come into our state and try to penalize people for doing something that's legal in our state.
Okay. Well, cool. So well, maybe we can go ahead and finish this conversation, like I say, later on, that kind of thing, because I know I'm going to be doing this throughout. And you know what? Each time it probably get better and better, that kind of thing. Because like I say, I was, hey, this is something new.
I love it.
So, but we're here at the segment now, where you have the awakening moment, or you can rant about something. And this is where I'm going to pull you full screen, whatever. And for that first, I guess how long you think you need your rant? 60 seconds or whatever, however long, you just let me know when you want me to come back for your rant about something, just dealing with what's one of the most pressing issues that's on your mind right now? And as far as when you become governor, what would you, I mean, just basically just put something out there where it's like, look, this is who I am. This is my belief. This is what, I believe in, or whether you want to make things like, hey, we can just do better and just have our warm, furry feelings and stuff like that. I'm sorry. I'm just. So basically, yeah, with the rant, you have an opportunity just to speak out on something that really bugs you. Or you can do some puff and fluff and just be like, this is what I really care about, just trying my best to ensure. I know I say puff and fluff, but, just to leave us with a feel good moment, because like I say, my train of thought is. Yeah.
I can do 2 minutes.
2 minutes? I got you. Let's go.
That work? All right. Well, first off, I always like to tell people that I'm very open about my past. I do struggle with alcohol addiction, and I'm almost 2 years sober. I talk about that because addiction is real. I'm trying to destigmatize addiction by talking about my past. I'm in the position I'm in. I came through, so can you. So, but 4 years ago, I didn't know where I was going. I was sitting in my apartment by myself. I had a bottle of vodka and I had a bottle of pills, and I was in a very bad place. That's why mental health is such a big deal for me. And I was halfway through that bottle of vodka and I started taking those pills. But one of the reasons I tell people I believe in God, I'm not saying you have to, but one of the reasons I believe in God is because I was by myself and I didn't make a phone call. But something stopped me that day from doing what I was doing. I didn't get better right away. It took years to get better. Like I said, I'm almost 2 years sober now. This was 4 years ago. God got me through that. I want people to know that life doesn't get better. It's going to get harder. But you're going to get stronger. You get stronger, which makes life easier. And I just want to make sure people realize when I'm governor, if I have the honor of becoming the next governor, I may not meet everybody personally. I may not know your personal story, but I want people to know that if I'm elected, there will be somebody in the governor's mansion that truly cares about you. I don't try to live my life in order to get to heaven. I want to live my life in order to try to help other people not live their own hell while on earth, because I've been there. I'm not running for governor for the people that are okay. I'm running for governor for people who feel like nothing, because I've been there. I'm a fighter. I've always fought for my life. I fought in the military, and I will absolutely fight for every single Georgian, no matter whether you vote for me or not. When I'm in the governor's mansion, I'm going to fight for you just as hard as I fought my entire life for myself in the military. There's my rant.
Okay, I'm coming back. I'm trying to hold on. Here I am. Okay, yeah, because I was just talking to myself, realizing I do need a producer, because I know just switching back and forth, just trying to engage.
I think you're doing a great job. I'm telling you, you're doing awesome. One of my buddies who I work with does his own podcast. He does a great job too. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just trying my best to stay on task, because I know that hopefully next time I will have somebody the next time. But I appreciate you coming out and stuff like that. Is there anything else, any events? Because I saw that you was raising money for I forgot the name of the where you ran for on 9/11.
I ran 110 miles on September 11th, 1 mile for every floor of the World Trade Center. Through the end of tonight, the website at the bottom was wrong. It's just Ken for Georgia, not Ken Yasger for Georgia, but it was close.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, I would. I got you. I would change that.
Any money that I raise on kenforgeorgia.com through tonight, I'm going to donate half to the 200 Club of the Coastal Empire. It's an organization that helps families of fallen first responders financially, whether it's just financially for the kids or for educational benefits. They cover 20 coastal counties in Georgia, and there are 2 in South Carolina that they support as well. But my whole campaign is about it's kind of like it's a fundraising but a charity campaign. So I donate half the money or all the money that I raise during these events to nonprofits or charities to help people.
That, you know what, that is very commendable, and we are grateful for people like you to actually think about others before, just thinking about themselves or including others in, you.
That's what it's. I don't like calling myself a politician. I call myself a statesman, because statesmen are really for the people. Like you're one of them, and you're for them.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I'm just trying my best to continue to keep up the fight, because it's hard, especially when you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with different personalities and different beliefs. And just like I said, I'm just glad that you were able to come on, and thank you for that rant.
It's an honor for me to be here. I really do appreciate it.
Well, yeah, and as we get ready to close out tonight, we want to give you a big thanks, and thank you for sharing your vision. And we want to remember that. Let's see. I'm just trying to make sure. So it is Ken. Yeah. Remember, if you want to know more about Ken Yasger, and I say that right. I know I've been.
Yeah. You're good. You're good.
Ken Yasger. www.kenyasger.com.
No, it's Ken for Georgia.
Oh, Ken. Yeah. Ken for Georgia. I'm trying. I guess I'm on these different screens back and forth, kind of thing. And like I said, it's gonna get better and better as more candidates I interview, because I know I spoke with Josh McLaurin and also Richard Wright. And be on the lookout for their upcoming episode. It's coming up real soon. I just got to get them on the calendar. But if you remember to make sure that you keep the people first. That's all I can say, because so many times we have so many career politicians that get in office and they forget about the people.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that I really and truly like, that you're engaging with the people. And like I say, thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And I guess for everyone else, make sure you go ahead and like, share, follow. And before we close out, be sure to catch Honorable Chief Mrs. Valencia Stovall tomorrow at 4:00. You got to check her out. She's a wonderful legislator, crosses the aisles. And also Senior Bingo at Total Food Pharmacy. That is October 4th. Make sure you go ahead and check that out. And we're going to go ahead and close on out. And be sure to find out more at www.kenforgeorgia.com. I got it right that time.
It's the herbal trucker coming through the airways. Real talk, no breaks. This is where the truth stays. Rolling heavy with stories untold. Not just cannabis, we break the mold. From the streets to the halls, we hit every lane. Plants with purpose, changing the game. This life is laws, it's facts we unfold. This is oversized load, and we're setting the tone. Yo, truth's too big, so we overload. Hosted by Yo, the herbal trucker on track. Keep it real, keep it raw, ain't no turning back. We go beyond green, it's deeper than smoke.